Hello and welcome back to Code Interpret. So today we're going to have a look at the logical operators. We did the comparison operators last time and we're going to be using the same values and variables like A and B, C and D. Okay, so the logical operators consist of uh, three keywords and, or, and not, and they basically check the truthiness of the left hand operand with the value of the right hand operand. And it also checks, so you can use operands like just variables, and you can also use expressions on both sides. And we're going to have a look at the examples of both to be able to understand what how logical operators work. So let's have a look at the example for and. Okay, A and B. So it may seem that that it returns, it checks if A is equivalent to B and then return true for that. No, that's not what it does. What it does is that it checks the value of A, it checks the truthiness of A operand itself if it's true, and then it checks the truthiness of the variable b, and then returns the last truth true value that it was found. Okay, so so what is the criteria to to check if the variable a contains a true value? Okay, so one is it'll check if it has a literal. Okay, if it contains a literal like string, integer, or float, or true, as long as it contains a value, it will consider it to be true. Okay, and if it's empty or it contains a zero or a false, then it would consider it to be false. Okay, so in case of and, so in case of or, it will check that either of the operands or the two sides, as long as either one of them is true, then it would return a true. So that means that the first, when Python starts reading the expression from the left hand side, and when you're using or, it the first expression need not hold a true value, because it knows that you're using the keyword or, and that means that the second expression or value could be true. So therefore it would go ahead and read the right hand operand or the right hand expression, okay, to check if it's true. And if that is true, then it would return the right hand side operand value. Okay, so let's start off with just simple variables. We know that A was 10, B is 20. So what's going to happen? A and B both are true because they both hold integer values, right? So like I said, it would read the last one, the last expression, which is on the right hand side, and then it would return that true value. It would check if the last value is also true, then it would return that. So in this case, it should return 20. Okay, so there you go, it returns 20. And when you print C and D, it would return 30. Since both of them are equal, it would still return the value that was found true in D. Okay, the second operand. Here what happens, A or B? So like I said, it would pick the first one because it immediately found A to be true, and as long as the first operand is true, it would just stop reading the expression. The second one, which is the right hand operand, and it would just return A, because the or keyword indicates that either one of these need to be true. So it just stops at A. Therefore, it returns 10. Okay. Now, this was really important to understand. Now, we're going to combine the comparison operators with the logical operators, and we'll check. Okay, so let's write an expression. A is less than B, or A is greater than B. Okay, so you don't really need to write put these brackets. It just makes the code more readable. But you can also do this. A is less than B, or okay, wait. A is greater than B, or A is equivalent to B, right? And then C is equivalent to D, and C is less than or equal to D. Okay, well, let's do one more. C is equivalent to D, and C is less than D. Okay, so since we have expressions, this is an entire expression because we're using a comparison operator to check the truthiness of both the operands. Okay, so let's run this. And okay, so the first one is true because A is less than B. It finds that to be true, and therefore it skips this part and just returns true because it it need not be true. Doesn't have to be true, this expression, because we're using the keyword or. So and similarly here we have false because neither of them are true. Okay, so first it checked whether A was greater than B. No, it was false. And then went on and checked A is equivalent to B. No, so it's false. Okay, so let's write another one. A is greater than B, or A is less than B. Okay, so let's just run this again. So the third one is true. This one becomes true because even though the first expression was false, then it checks for the second one, and it checks it sees that yes, A, because A was 10 and B was 20. See, so this one is true, so therefore it returns the last true value that was found. Similarly, this would be true because even though we're using a less than sign, but we're also saying it's or equal to, so C is less than or equal to D, therefore this is true. And here we're not using the equal sign, we're just saying that C is equal to D, but no, that's false. And since we've used the keyword and is basically it ensures that both the expressions need to be true. So since this was found to be true, and then when it moved to read the second expression on the right hand side, the right operands or the expressions or the elements, this turns out to be false. So therefore it returns the last value found to be false. Therefore you get false. Okay, now let's have a look at not. So when we say that it's not B, okay, or when we use the value of not true, or when we use the value of not false. So when we use A is less than B and not D. Okay, let's just make a print statement just to ensure that there is a gap in between. Okay, all right. So when you use the keyword not, you're basically trying to determine the opposite value of B. Now we know that any literal of any variable is considered to be true, so it was actually true, but not returns the opposite of whatever B was. So since B was true, it returns false, and not true, the opposite of true is false, and not false, the opposite of false is false. Is true. Okay, so in this statement, we're checking for A is less than B, which is true, And because we're using the keyword and, we need to make sure that the second, the right hand side of the operation or the expression also needs to be true. If this is true, then this needs to be true as well. Okay, but it's not. Because when you said not d itself holds a value, it holds an integer. Remember, it was 30. So any value that contains any variable that contains a literal value, it is considered to be true. So when you say not d, you're saying that this is false, right? And because we've used and, it went on and read the second part of the expression, which is the right hand side, and this turned out to be false. And therefore, it returned whatever was found last. Okay, remember, it checks for the last variables or or the last output, and then it returns that. Therefore, this becomes false. Okay, so that's about it for logical operators. If you have any questions, do comment below and give me your feedback. And thank you.